Imagine waking up tomorrow and realizing you'll never have to work another day in your life. No alarm clock, no boss, no emails, no deadlines. Not because you're rich, because jobs simply don't exist. It sounds impossible, but for nearly 290,000 years, that's exactly how humans lived. Our ancestors never had resumes. They never worried about promotions. They never asked, "What do you do for a living?" The idea of having one job for most of your life would have sounded completely absurd. Instead, every morning started with one simple question. What does the group need today? Maybe someone needed to gather berries. Maybe someone tracked animals. Maybe others repaired shelters or cared for children. Nobody had a fixed role forever. People adapted every single day. And surprisingly, they spent far less time working than many people do today. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer societies discovered that many groups spent only a few hours each day finding food. The rest of their time was spent talking, making tools, playing with children, telling stories around the fire, or simply resting. For hundreds of thousands of years, this wasn't a vacation. It was normal life. So if humans lived this way for almost our entire existence, why do we spend most of our lives working today? The answer begins around 12,000 years ago, when one invention changed everything. The answer begins around 12,000 years ago. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans moved with the seasons. If the animals disappeared, they followed them. If the berries stopped growing, they searched somewhere else. The world was their home, and survival depended on adapting to nature, not controlling it. Then something extraordinary happened. In several different parts of the world, people discovered they could grow food instead of searching for it. At first, it didn't seem revolutionary. A few seeds were planted. A few animals were kept close to camp. No one could have imagined that these small experiments would completely change human history. For the first time, people had a reason to stay in one place. Villages appeared, then larger villages, then cities. And once people stopped moving, everything else began to change. Fields needed to be planted, crops needed protection, animals needed feeding every single day. Unlike hunting, farming didn't wait until you felt like working. The plants followed their own schedule. Miss the planting season, and your family might starve months later. For the first time, humans became tied to a calendar. And that's when work stopped being a daily choice and became a permanent responsibility. But farming created something even more important than food. It created surplus. Some families began producing more grain than they needed. Instead of hunting every day, they could trade. One person became better at making tools. Another made pottery. Someone else built houses. For the first time in history, people no longer needed to know how to do everything. They only needed to become very good at one thing. Specialization was born. And with specialization came professions: blacksmiths, carpenters, weavers, merchants, soldiers, priests. Society was becoming more efficient, but it was also becoming more unequal. Some people controlled land, others worked on it. Some stored food. Others depended on those stores to survive. Wealth slowly stopped being measured by skill and started being measured by ownership. The more land you owned, the more food you produced. The more food you produced, the more power you gained. For the first time, work wasn't just about survival. It became connected to status, to power, to money. Then governments appeared. Kings wanted taxes. Empires needed roads. Armies needed supplies. Someone had to count grain. Someone had to collect taxes. Someone had to keep records. Writing, one of humanity's greatest inventions, wasn't originally created to write stories. Much of the earliest writing was simply used to record property trade, and taxes. Work had become an organized system, and over the centuries, that system only grew larger. Factories replaced workshops, machines replaced many craftsmen, clocks replaced the rising sun. People no longer worked until the job was finished. They worked until the shift was over. For the first time in history, time itself became something people could sell. Today, millions of people spend nearly half of their waking lives working. To us, that feels completely normal. But if you could travel back 20,000 years and explain a modern office job to a hunter-gatherer, they probably wouldn't understand the idea of spending decades doing the exact same task for someone else. Not because they were lazy, because the entire concept would seem strange. Our ancestors evolved to solve different problems every day, to explore, to adapt, to cooperate. Perhaps that's one reason why so many people feel restless in modern life. Our world has changed much faster than our brains have. Work built civilizations. It gave us cities, science, technology, medicine, and everything surrounding us today. But it also changed the way humans spend almost every hour of their lives. But history wasn't finished changing work. For thousands of years, your job was decided the moment you were born. If your father was a farmer, you became a farmer. If your mother made clothes, you learned the same craft. Choice had very little to do with it. Survival came first. Dreams came later. Then the Industrial Revolution changed everything again. Steam engines could do the work of hundreds of people. Factories grew larger every year. Millions left small villages and moved into crowded cities. For the first time, people no longer worked where they lived. Home became one place. Work became another. A normal day became carefully measured. The factory whistle told you when to begin. The clock told you when to stop. Every minute suddenly had value. Being late no longer meant disappointing your family. It meant losing money. Over time, this way of living spread across the world. Schools even began preparing children for factory life. Sit still. Raise your hand. Follow instructions. Arrive on time. Complete your task. Wait for the bell. Many historians believe these habits weren't accidental. They matched the needs of an industrial society. As technology improved, work became less physical, but far more mental. Today, millions of people spend entire days staring at screens. Our bodies move less than ever before, but our brains rarely get a chance to rest. Emails replace conversations. Notifications replace silence. Deadlines replace sunsets. Ironically, humans invented technology to save time. Yet many people feel busier than ever. Even after work ends, work often follows us home. A single message can interrupt dinner. A late-night email can ruin sleep. The line between working and living has become harder to see. And despite all our advances, scientists continue asking an interesting question. Are our brains actually designed for this lifestyle? Evolution moves incredibly slowly. The human brain you're using today is almost identical to the brain of someone who lived tens of thousands of years ago. Your ancestors solved problems by moving through forests, reading animal tracks, watching the weather, working closely with small groups of people they trusted. Today, many of us spend 8 hours under artificial light, looking at rectangles on a screen, rarely moving, surrounded by hundreds of strangers. It's no surprise that stress, anxiety, and burnout have become so common. Our environment changed faster than our biology ever could. That doesn't mean modern work is bad. Without it, we wouldn't have hospitals, airplanes, computers, medicine, or the device you're watching this video on. Modern civilization exists because billions of people cooperate through work every single day. But remembering where we came from helps explain something important. The feeling that you sometimes want to go outside, walk through nature, build something with your hands, or simply slow down isn't weakness. It may be one of the oldest instincts still living inside every human. So the next time someone asks, "What do you do for a living?" remember, for most of human history, that question simply didn't exist.